They say that the internet ruined kayfabe, that by exposing the business, people would never believe in professional wrestling ever again, and that smart fans are now impossible to fool. However, I say that couldn't be further from the truth, especially when you consider how many people use terms like the Forbidden Door, which is nothing more than a mere marketing term used to dupe the marks. Now, having said that, how do you know that I'm telling you the truth about the Forbidden Door not being the truth? Well, you could just go ahead and watch, as it's the topic of this episode. Because today... A quick shout out to all of my awesome Patreon supporters such as Baba Yaga, Jeremy P, and Jeff Ang. Thank you so much for the support, it really does mean a lot. Allow me to start by saying that this Forbidden Door nonsense just drives me crazy, as it's clearly working over the marks that really do believe that it's a thing. For starters, I'm willing to bet there are at least some people out there who are angrily clacking away on their keyboards right now because I dare to say that the Forbidden Door is not real. So, if you have a keen wrestling mind, or you're at least willing to hear me out on this one, could you please give this video a big like? That way it offsets all the people who aren't quite as rational. And also, while you're at it, please make sure you're subscribed to this channel. Anyway, in case angry smarks aren't enough for you, don't worry because there's plenty of other evidence that shows that the Forbidden Door never really existed, at least not in the way that a lot of people think that it does. Oh, and also, don't expect a lot of relevant visuals for the first part of this video because I've been told that certain companies don't like criticism and they tend to make trouble for you on YouTube. Now, I don't know if that's actually true or not, but I ain't looking to poke any bears if you know what I mean. Anyway, let's start at the beginning. According to an article on SportsIllustrated.com by Justin Barrasso, the phrase was first used by Hiroshi Tanahashi, referencing his Wrestle Kingdom match against Chris Jericho in 2020. The article went on to say that the ace of New Japan told Tokyo Sports that if he defeated Chris Jericho, he would open the Forbidden Door and ask for a shot at the AEW title. By the way, Tanahashi would not win that match. This initial Forbidden Door comment seemingly stems from New Japan Pro Wrestling and All Elite Wrestling supposedly being on the outs, ever since the main players of AEW, Cody Rhodes, Kenny Omega, and the Young Bucks left New Japan high and dry to start their own promotion. This allegedly created a rift that caused both companies to refuse to work together. And this is perfectly understandable, especially considering that it's been said that some talents in New Japan clashed with the company's new president at the time, Harold Meij. But on the reverse side, it's been reported that NJPW had some pretty important plans penciled in for some of the stars that left, with Kenny Omega allegedly being scheduled to face his arch rival Kazuchika Okada in the main event of the G1 Supercard show, which I was there for live, by the way. But since Kenny left the company, he had to be replaced by Jay White. Gee, thanks a lot, Kenny. Alright, having said that, it does make sense that these promotions would have beef. Okay, so how long exactly were these two persona non grata to each other? Well, not long at all. Okay, technically speaking, this banishment never really happened. Let's go back to September 2018 with the show All In. Now look, I know that it wasn't an AEW show proper, but let's not forget that it was the precursor that made AEW possible to begin with. And on that show, not only did it feature the Elite, but it also featured Kazuchika Okada. But if you're looking for something a little more official, then let's look to Wrestle Kingdom 13, where Cody Rhodes, Kenny Omega, and the Bucks all appeared. And they did so just a few days after AEW was formed on January 1st, 2019. Not to mention that a few months prior is when the trademarks were all filed. Now, to be fair, Kenny Omega didn't sign with All Elite Wrestling until February of 2019. But as for the other EVPs of the Bucks and Cody Rhodes, well, they signed on January 2nd, which was still before Wrestle Kingdom. And speaking of Cody, need I remind everyone that on a recent episode of Dynamite, he mentioned that he created the Forbidden Door. Now sure, all of these dates I talked about happened way early on, and a lot of their work for New Japan at the time was just them wrapping up their contractual obligations. How about once AEW really got the ball rolling? All Elite Wrestling had their first major press conference on January 8th, 2019, but they wouldn't have their first major show until May 25th of that same year with Double or Nothing. which is also when Jon Moxley made his debut. However, also in May 2019, Mox would be revealed as the mystery man who had been targeting Juice Robinson's IWGP United States title, and go on to win that belt at New Japan's Best of the Super Juniors, which was just 11 days after he first appeared for All Elite Wrestling. He would also remain champion until October of that year. Then, at New Japan's Dominion on June 9th, 2019, Chris Jericho would main event the show against Kazuchika Okada, and as previously mentioned, Jericho would also go against Tanahashi at the following Wrestle Kingdom, which is also where Moxley would win the IWGP United States title for a second time. Oh, and in terms of the Forbidden Door swinging the other way, well, New Japan talent has appeared on AEW television as well, starting with Kenta Kobayashi on February 3rd, 2021, where he showed up at the show Beach Break. Not to mention that Minoru Suzuki had a fantastic match against Bryan Danielson. Now, this is not to say that the two companies worked together constantly over the past 3 years, as there are some gaps in the timeline, but just remember that a few months off in terms of professional wrestling really is nothing, especially when you think about how long it's taking Veer Mahaan to show up. Not only that, but we should also take into account things like travel restrictions and the fact that New Japan took about half a year off. Okay, so now that we covered all that and established that both promotions have had their talents appearing on each other's shows, can we really say that there's a Forbidden Door anymore, or that there ever was to begin with? Well, somehow there are still plenty of people who are saying it, including Tony Khan himself, when he tweeted, "The Forbidden Door can be opened for anyone from any wrestling promotion in the world, whether or not it's a company AEW is on good terms with, even if it's someone from a company that's open for business. They're also welcome to slam the door in the face of their prior company." Now, the open for business line is presumably an acknowledgement of World Wrestling Entertainment. After all, many fans reference WWE when talking about Forbidden Door claims, since that's the company that's well known for having airtight contracts and not intermingling with other promotions. Right? Well, not exactly. Let's remember that WWE started off as a member of the National Wrestling Alliance, a conglomerate of other wrestling promotions all working together under one banner. The company now known as World Wrestling Entertainment would break away from the NWA in the early 1960s, only to rejoin them once again in the 70s before breaking away for good once Vince and Kennedy McMahon took over. But I know, since then, Vince has ruthlessly and aggressively competed with every other promotion, refusing to work with anybody else. Well, again, not really. Let's go back to New Japan, because both companies have worked with each other quite a bit throughout the years, with even Antonio Inoki himself winning the WWF World Martial Arts Heavyweight Championship in both 1978 and 1989, as well as having one unrecognized win with the WWF World Heavyweight Championship. Also, you should know that before Jack Tunney, New Japan's Hisashi Shima was the on-screen president for the WWF. He was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2019, and Antonio Inoki was inducted in 2010. Furthermore, in the 90s, Extreme Championship Wrestling invaded the WWF, and Jerry Lawler even went on ECW TV as well. Additionally, the WWF also had talent exchange deals with Smoky Mountain Wrestling, a promotion that also had similar deals with WCW at the same time. And speaking of Jim Cornette, the NWA was also featured on WWF TV during the Attitude Era, with Corny bringing in NWA championships that were competed for on WWF television. And further still, the promotion AAA was featured during the 1997 Royal Rumble. Then, moving into the modern era, Jushin Thunder Liger appeared on NXT to take on Tyler Breeze. In addition, Zack Sabre Jr. and Kota Ibushi would compete in WWE's Cruiserweight Classic. Plus, Rob Van Dam would again appear on Monday Night Raw while part of another company, but this time it was TNA. As well as Billy Gunn accepting his WWE Hall of Fame as a part of DX, and Chris Jericho being a guest on Stone Cold Steve Austin's podcast while both of them were All Elite. And of course, recently, Mickie James competed in this year's Royal Rumble despite being the current Knockouts champion. The point is, the Forbidden Door is just a trendy buzz term that's been thrown around so loosely it's lost all meaning, if it ever had any to begin with. And as is typical for the internet, people have started using the term completely out of context, with some misguided fans calling anyone showing up anywhere a Forbidden Door, somehow even including people like Shane McMahon and Bad Bunny as Forbidden Door entrants in the Royal Rumble. And it's not just fans doing this either, as there are even those in the industry who are making this mistake as well. For example, let's go back to Tony Khan's Twitter, as even he had to be corrected when he tweeted, "I realized after the fact that Friday night I butchered my own definition of Forbidden Door in hyping tonight. I heard the fans' feedback and wanted to ensure that tonight was a special AEW Dynamite for all. Thank you everyone who watched." This is because while Keith Lee did debut for the promotion, he was a free agent, so there's really nothing forbidden about that. Okay, but I know what some of you might be thinking. Who cares if people are using the term Forbidden Door incorrectly, or if it's not even real to begin with? It's exciting to think that the Forbidden Door is open, so what's the harm in that, right? Well, therein lies the problem. Remember, this is an industry specifically designed to lie to you, and that the wrestling business is of course still a business, and the whole thing revolves around them getting people to be invested into their product in order to make money by exploiting them. This, of course, is what makes someone a mark, and to a degree, I guess we're all marks, myself included. Don't think I'm separating myself above anyone here. But that's okay, especially if we remain aware of it. If we know when we're being worked, then when we do decide to give wrestling our money, at least it's more of our choice than if we were unaware. And so, don't forget that the Forbidden Door is just a clever marketing strategy. And if you don't believe me, well, just know that the term Forbidden Door has recently been filed for trademark by AEW. Look, what I'm trying to say here is that wrestling debuts are exciting all on their own. I don't need silly catchphrases or extra hype to get excited about Hiroshi Tanahashi taking on Chris Jericho, or seeing Bryan Danielson take on Minoru Suzuki, or seeing Keith Lee debut for All Elite Wrestling. Calling it a Forbidden Door when it's not and there's no such thing really isn't necessary. Have faith in your talents, and don't take some innocuous phrase dropped by Hiroshi Tanahashi once upon a time in an interview and turn that into a marketing strategy used to work over your fans. And if you happen to be one of those fans, just know that every time you spread Forbidden Door rumors, you're really getting played. Well, there you go. Why the Forbidden Door really isn't a thing. What are your thoughts on the subject? Let me know down in the comments. And please give this video a like and be sure that you're subscribed to this channel. And also, I want to say thank you to all my awesome Patreons out there. And thank you for watching. And as always, Dave knows.